Okay. I'm ready to go. Well, you are all so silent, I guess we'll start the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. It is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. I'll call this meeting now to order at 6:30 p.m. and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
We'll discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Buck.
Discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Bulman.
Here.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
A quorum is present, and so we shall proceed. And the invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Vaughan. I'll lead us in the pledges afterwards, so would everyone please stand.
Dear Lord, at all times, but especially during this election season, grant all of us the strength to reject our sinful natures that ascribe bad intentions to our neighbors and bear false witness against them. Remind us that everything we do should be to glorify you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Welcome. We're pleasant. We have some new faces here in the audience this evening. Thank you very much for coming and your interest in your city. And we look forward to seeing how you are with our meeting this evening, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Okay, the first item that we do have is to discuss the member's absence. And Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby is, you wouldn't want to be around him. He's not feeling really well, so he's excused tonight. Councilmember Buck is on a special trip with the Army. He's still service with the Army, and in fact, he couldn't even tell me where he was going to be. So, but I do need a motion from him to excuse these.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Najarian, second by Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Discussion, anyone? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. This is a formality when council people cannot make the meetings. Normally, it's just to make sure that they are responsible for it, and they are. And this is just our way of excusing them from the meeting without having a check mark on their name. Okay. All right. So that moves on to our staff reports and some other discussion items. So not expected to require action by council. Generally for information, item listed in this section could become an action item without further notice if necessary, and with the consent of myself and at the request of any council members. So first thing we have item 4 there is a city manager report.
Sorry, I don't have anything to report. When we first brought Maribel on as the deputy city clerk, it was to assist us with open records requests, and she's been doing a fantastic job on that. So I've asked her to give us a quarterly report on where we are on open records requests so that everybody is apprised of the same information.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the number of open records requests, as you can see in your report, has increased 92% since fiscal year 2022. Since fiscal year 2018, it has increased 531%. So we've had an exponential increase of open records requests. Staff time spent during your fiscal year 2023 is 448 hours. That's 55 entire work days. The time we've spent, I'm gonna turn that off, it's a little too loud. The time we've spent fulfilling open records requests has gone up, but the average amount of time we've spent filling each open records request has gone down. We've averaged 0.72 hours in fiscal year 2022. In fiscal year 2023, we've averaged 0.44 hours, so it's gone down. The improved processes that can account for that increased efficiency is police department software change. They've changed from one software of records keeping to the Spillman software. In addition, they changed in July 2022. They had some time to familiarize themselves with that before fiscal year 2023 even started. So once the fiscal year started, they were ready to go. In addition, we have more experience with the Barracuda email archiver. So that's helped a lot. With searching emails, we get a lot of requests for different correspondence records, and we have more electronic records as a whole. So an example could be the ordinances. Every single time we get it signed, I scan it in, so it makes it very searchable in our own databases. Do you guys have any questions for fiscal year 2023? No? Okay, then I'm gonna, sorry.
So that's okay, it's just a report, it's not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. For fiscal year 2024, we're completed the first quarter of the fiscal year on January 1st. So up until December 31st, from October 1st, that's what these numbers account for. I placed sheets in front of you guys. It corrected one of the numbers. Originally, it said police department was 261 requests. It was actually supposed to be 222, with the total amount of requests for the quarter being 261. So we have totaled 96.5 hours in quarter one.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on now to our next item on the agenda, and that is our citizens to be heard time. And this is an opportunity for citizens to discuss matters of interest, concerns that they have, address council on it. We don't take any direct action on it, but it definitely doesn't fall on deaf ears. So I suspect that there may be some of you here for the first time that want to express their positions about some issues, and we welcome you. So thank you very much. There are actually 5 individuals that have signed up this evening, so I'll call you up in order that you signed up, and please try to keep your remarks down to 3 minutes. Okay, ready to go? All right, the first person that signed up this evening, Mr. Bernie Rubal. Mr. Rubal.
Mr. Mayor, City Staff, where you live. Tonight, essentially, you have on a consent agenda ordinance 544 Alpha 2004, which is essentially a renewal of the purchase policy of Universal City. Some interesting points were made at last council meeting, and I'd like to follow those with a comment. Tonight, council will decide either what can be done legally to avoid competitive bid process, or what could be done to ensure that residents get the best value out of contract services. Specifically, there's a need for council to define conditions of exemptions to the competitive bid process for routine services. Should exemptions through state statute government code 2252.022 alpha 2 be applied, council should be provided with a statement of work before consideration of an exemption. How are you going to know essentially what to do if you don't have a statement of work? To be clear, these processes were not followed in the current waste management contract. Email from the city manager between the first and second and written reading clearly states that there was no statement of work, rather general guidelines and quote at that time. It's also important to appreciate that $1 million sole source contracts should also pass an ethical smell test. How can a contract with sole source exemptions include special terms that require the contractor to contribute to specific city-defined charities? Finally, council should take exception to the city manager's statement at the last meeting that council does not need contract information and options well before the end of the contract, pointing out that the current waste management contract has a 90-day auto renewal clause in front of it. So So basically, prevent, break in waste management services, there should be ample time for council to consider options for this critical service in our city. I thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Wu, sir, would you please remove that? Thanks. Okay, thank you, sir. The next person signed this evening is Mr. Michael, is it Voller? Oh, I'm Michael, yes, of course. Officially give us your name and address for the record, too, please.
Yes, so my name is Michael Voller, and 210 East Aviation Boulevard is where our business is located. It's Yada Brewing Company. I want to thank you all for this time, Mayor, council members, city manager. Basically, I'm here to talk about something on the agenda. It's the parking lot that was proposed across the way from our business on Aviation. I am not as well spoken as the last speaker up here, but what I am is a dad, a veteran, and a small business owner for the first time. And we've been welcomed by Universal City with open arms and have really enjoyed our time here and owning this small business. We have employed many people who are from Universal City and see a lot of military and locals in our business. One problem we do have is parking, not only at evening times, but lately it's been at lunchtime, where people don't have anywhere to park because our lot quickly fills up. And in my opinion, small business is one of the cornerstones of the city, and it's the way to grow a city. And supplying infrastructure with tax dollars is something that would really help our small business, and I can only speak for us. But we have plans to do more in food and beverage in Universal City. That's our dream. And this would really help us to accomplish that. So I just wanted to let you all know that I'm for it and give you my simple remarks. And thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I know him as Michael from Gather. I'm going to say the last name. And the next person signed up is Miss Rachel Ball.
My name is Rachel Bowler. I'm also from Gather, 210 Aviation. Evening, council members, and Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to speak here tonight. Since opening our business in Universal City 2 years ago, we've provided local jobs, sponsored many city and military events, and donated to multiple nonprofits here in the city. Our business has also contributed over $75,000 in tax revenue to Universal City. We frequently host exciting family-friendly events like festivals, farmers markets, and other fun celebrations. They draw huge crowds from all over our city, San Antonio, surrounding cities, and the state. We even have had guests travel from as far as Dallas just to try our waffle of the month, which if you've tried it, you get why. With this success, we've also experienced our fair share of challenges, number one being we don't have enough parking for our guests, and we desperately need more. Not just for these events I've mentioned, but on a weekly and daily basis, we are completely maxed out. As a small business owner with 3 kids, 25 employees, and their families to provide for, it's gut-wrenching to watch car after car leave our parking lot due to a lack of space. The hardest part is we have the space inside and on our patio. We have the seats. Our parking lot is full when we are at less than half capacity. So that makes it especially challenging. The parking lot that's being voted on tonight is essential in order for Gather to continue to grow and succeed. And like my husband Mike said, the success of the small businesses are the foundation of the city's success. It's crucial. On that note, we also have a lot of families that come together. We're very family friendly, and they park all along the streets and surrounding businesses. They're crossing the streets whenever there's a break in traffic, and I'm sure y'all know traffic on Aviation Boulevard has increased quite a bit, and it's not safe for people to just there's no crosswalk. And I would also like to ask that y'all would consider putting in a crosswalk at some point that would connect to our side of the street. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Next individual signed up is Ms. Ginny, and you'll have to pronounce your last name for me. Come on up.
Sure.
I don't want to say it wrong. So.
My name is Jen Comstock. Thank you for being here, council and mayor. I'm one of the families that earns a living through Cattle Brewing Company. I actually work there as one of the front of house managers and also coordinate events and reservations. I can pretty much say ditto to what they said. At the same time, I want to add that, we work quite a bit with our surrounding neighbors, businesses, in order to work out the parking as best we can. There's a lot down the street that we'll rent from one of the neighboring business owners. What we often find is that some of the other businesses, obviously because they need their parking space as well, aren't as open to having our guests park in their places, and they end up getting towed. So we also have that vacant grass lot over off of Bowie that a lot of our guests park in. And weather permitting, when it's muddy, we've had to have people get towed out of there and help them with that. We've had guests help get people towed. So having an additional parking space would be amazing. We currently rent the additional parking on a regular basis. But you heard Mike and Rachel talk about how even the weekdays right now, as business picks up for lunch, a lot of the members from the base come in. They all come in their single car, a single person in their single car, and the parking lot fills up exponentially that way. I received a phone call just last week from a guest that was actually circling the parking lot trying to find a place. She called inside, "Where do I park?" And we direct them over to Bowie Street and the grass lot, not down the street to the big vacant lot that's there, because that's only when we've rented it that space is available. So I'm very much in favor with the consistent growth we've had for events and reservations, just parties. Just tonight I was actually working and we had 25 people show up for a 5-year-old's birthday party at the brewery, which is great. The family loves it. We've got a great kids area, so it really would be helpful for our business to have some additional parking, and definitely the crosswalk would be much safer. Thank you for considering that.
Thank you, Ms. Compton. Appreciate it. Okay, the last person that has signed up this evening is Ms. Linda Sefton.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Linda Sefton at 205 Trudy Lane. So I'm going to be a controversial speaker tonight. I'm not speaking on this subject. I'm going to address tab C, which is your vote on a public health director for Universal City. In the resolution, it states that the person who is going to be the director of public health must be reputable, competent, act as a state officer, be a public health law enforcement, do what is in the best interest of all UC residents, and I want to address each of those, if I may. First of all, reputable means having a good reputation, being in good standing. The person that is being recommended is Dr. Woo. She's very notorious, been known around Bear County for years. She's a self-described former abortionist. She was the director of a Planned Parenthood clinic in San Antonio for years, one of the biggest ones. She was initially put forward to be the public health director with the San Antonio Metro Public Health Division back in 2015. But even then, Mayor I.D. Taylor turned her down because she was too controversial. She's very polarizing. She was then appointed later by Mayor Nirenberg. The reason why I think it's a problem, somebody that polarizing, is in public health, you have to have the trust of all the people. We saw everything that happened during COVID, where a lot of people completely have lost trust in what the government and what the state, what everybody told them what to do. And a lot of the things we were told to do turned out to not be scientifically accurate. For example, cloth masks. Anyone knows cloth does not stop viruses, and yet she kept pushing those masks as late as last fall, after all the research already said that they don't work. It's like throwing sand at a chain link fence, it just goes right through it. As far as competency, she has no experience in public health before this. She's not a virologist or epidemiologist. And if you look at the list with all the reportable public diseases that she's in charge of and have to report, there are over almost 90 diseases. Only 9 of those are STDs, which is her only area of expertise. If we got something in that, like this summer, an outbreak of West Nile virus, and we would have to get instruction from public health on what to do, it is important that the public can trust. And if they say, okay, put DEET on your children to protect them from that, people have to be able to trust that. And because she is so polarizing, I don't think people will. I think they're going to go online and try to Google and try to figure out for themselves. And I just want to give you a little bit of statistics because this is a nonpartisan issue. In Universal City, 65% of the electorate consistently 100% of the time only vote for candidates that are pro-life. We're very unique. We're in the 28th Congressional District. We are the only congressional district in Texas that has a Democratic congressman who is wholeheartedly pro-life. That shows this is across party lines. It's not just one party or the other. That's 65% of the people in Universal City that right off the top are not going to trust anything she says. Also, she has to act as a state officer. I'm sorry, I ran out of time. But as a state officer, she has to enforce the law. And I just want to remind you, she was the primary advisor to both Mayor Nirenberg and Nelson Wolff during COVID. She's the one who said we had to keep the mask. And if you recall, the state of Texas sued Bexar County because of her recommendations. It went through the court system. They said she was wrong. Even after they lost the lawsuit, the school district still kept listening to them. She still kept telling the schools to continue these restrictions. And we know what the fallout has been on the children in our community. So I would just ask you all, please vote against her. Her contract does not expire to 21 May. You got 3 months. There's no sense in doing anything rushed. There has to be another alternative for another person that can be in this role that can be trusted by all the people in Universal City. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Those of you that spoke were the only ones that signed up. Does anyone like to address council that didn't have a chance to fill out this form? Yes, sir, please do.
John Heberling, 8434 Ulysses. Just very quickly, I read the Universal City report on racial profiling, and I just wanted to commend our police department for getting such a clean bill of health. I'm skeptical when somebody says, oh, we're real good at this, I want to see the proof. I actually did read the whole thing, and I'm very, very impressed, and I hope you will pass that along, that is something to be proud of. Second thing not so proud of, I am not on social media for 1,000 good reasons, but unfortunately, just about everybody I know is, and periodically they feel the need to share things with me. Most recently, apparently on Facebook, there's something called Universal City Uncensored or something like that. And apparently there've been a number of rather unkind ad hominem attacks on various council members, to which none of the other council members commenting on the various subjects being discussed defended their peers. And that does not go unnoticed. When somebody is attacked, rather than perhaps their decisions or support for an issue or whatever, but when they're name called, and none of the other council members who are on that particular site take a moment to say, hey, wait a minute, let's not make this personal, let's keep this to the issues. That really stands out. So when you get the opportunity, please defend each other. It presents unity. To not defend each other presents a picture of divisiveness that nobody in this room or in this city wants. It's okay if you guys disagree. That's what makes a healthy city council, but let's not get personal. That has no good ending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. Anyone else? It's your chance. Yes, ma'am. Come on.
Good evening. My name is Laura Bennett. I live at 487 Amelia Street, and I've lived in Universal City for many years. and I've raised my children here, and I love it here. I just want to second what Linda has said about Ms. Woo, Dr. Woo. It troubles me to think that someone of this nature would be in charge of our health here. In 2020 and 2021 and 2022, I discovered early on that I could not wear a mask. I was unable to wear one medically. My doctor wrote me a note, he said, do not do it. I still had a shop, I still had to be out, and I learned very quickly what the nature of our government throwing this at us in our area was doing to people. People turned against me. I was chased down in the grocery store. I had a woman who actually attacked me in the grocery store and asked other people to attack me. I had to be very strong and very brave, and it was terrifying. And this was all due to the judge and Dr. Woo and Nuremberg and our city council and not standing up for the citizens. I can't imagine, I won't trust that government. And I want to be able to have trust in government again, and doctors, by the way. And I couldn't wear one, but then I thought, if I could wear one, I'm glad that I couldn't, because I discovered how awful and just a lack of caring for our personal freedoms and our Fourth Amendment rights and our First Amendment rights, and just the right to your body. I discovered these things are lacking in our culture, in our city, in our county. And I don't think that should keep flying. We need to be able to trust you, and we need to be able to trust them, and I don't. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Okay, anyone else? All right, close this section of our meeting and then move on to our announcements time. And first of all will be our city manager, and then myself, and then council members.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have too much. I would just first of all like to thank all of the vendors and sponsors who participated in the Snow Fest. We couldn't have done it without them. Also, I want to show a lot of gratitude to the volunteers. I'm guessing we had over 200 volunteers that showed up at that particular day. So we had some med students from Fort Sam, we had people from Lackland, large groups from the college, and it really did help make the event more enjoyable. And of course, I also want to show gratitude to our Parks and Rec Commission, because without them and their planning, this event would not happen, and they were all there in full force in spite of the weather. And then, of course, wanted to thank Randy and Regina and all of their staff, because they do an excellent job of putting this event together and making it very enjoyable for everyone in the community, regardless of your age. There's something for you, and I just want to extend gratitude to him as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I do have some items this evening, so bear with me, everybody. Okay. First of all, for council, sometime in one of the meetings in April, we're going to go purple. And I'm saying that because we want to support the military child, and this came to my attention by the Schutzville and University City Independent School District that they're going to do the month of the military child. So one of the meetings in April, I'm going to ask us to wear purple. So we'll give you plenty of advance notice. I may have to buy some. I don't know what you're going to do.
I'm so excited. I'm going to wear purple.
Okay. Anyway, that's just an announcement.
Yep.
Our chance to recognize the military families and the kids of the military families. And many of us have them in our neighborhoods. Many of us served in the military as well. So it's just an opportunity for us to recognize those young men and women. Right. I want to shout out to our utilities department, Randy, and the department. I got a call about 3 weeks ago, and they said, Mr. Williams, you must have a leak because your usage of water has gone up 1,200 gallons in the last week. And I went, what? Yeah, I was. And so thankfully that we have the system now. When there is a potential problem, we are notified. And gosh, it was, I had no idea. So, long story longer, there's some repair work that's been done, let's put it that way. But thankfully, the city had enough wherewithal to contact us and let us know that we had this potential problem. That's huge. That's really huge. So shout out to your team, and I think the leak's been fixed, because I checked the other day and I don't have any deviations, so I guess it's all right. Today also, very interesting about city public service. Between Mr. Vaughan and myself, there's a green space and big power lines. And the truck was out there today, and they were trimming a lot of the trees that were originally in my yard and Vaughan. And they really did that because they want to make sure throughout our entire city that when there's a problem, like what bad weather is freezing with limbs falling down, that they don't hit our lines, power lines. And so they were doing their early spring cleanup, I guess you would say, this morning. And I will also tell you this, they put the little sealant on every single thing that they trim.
Wow.
So that leads to my next one, which is, if you haven't read your gateway, there's a great article about oak wilt and what we can do, and it's thank God it's not a huge problem yet in this area, but it could potentially be. But I commend you to read that article. So I think that's important for you too. I don't know if you read, if you still get the Express News, Sunday's paper. Air Education and Training Command is changing its name. It's now going to be called the Airman Development Command, a combination of things that's related to the Air Force senior leadership saying, we have to make sure that our airmen are ready to go. And if China is our major threat, so be it. We're gonna make that happen. And so it's not, I don't think they've actually said when it's going to take place, but that name change is going to happen pretty darn soon. Okay? All right. Obviously, early voting is taking place at the City Library and in many other locations as well. So take advantage of that, your ability to candidates of your choice. This is early voting for state, national, and others, not local. The local vote is not till May. Okay, so it is not for the people who have volunteered to serve their city here in the coming election, which is the first Saturday in May. Snowfest, I want to shout out again to everybody like Kim did. Walmart, a great sponsor. And did you know, I don't know how many of you know this, but Walmart also has put out, what is it, a Monopoly game of Universal City at Walmart. And I think some of you have it already. Some of the, I think establishments have already put it up on their walls. So, pardon? Universality. Anyway, and there are still some left. I talked to the manager at Snowfest the other day, and she said, I still have some left. So if you're looking for one, head off to your local Universal City Walmart and pick one up. Okay. One last thing is related to our golf course. Council has passed using utility funding to change the way the flow of the water is between the 8th hole and the 9th hole in the golf course. So what they're going to be doing is actually mending that Mother Nature, we took apart from Mother Nature, putting it back together where Mother Nature needs it to be. And so in the interim period, they did an interesting little fix. Hole number 1 is starting to be hole number 2 now. Hole number 9, this is crazy, but I'll tell you, I'll explain. Hole number 9 is usually a par 4, so they moved the tee way up to, so it's a par 3, so where the construction is going on, where they're doing the sewer, the work is not going to be a problem. Okay, then you play number 1, which is number 2, then you go to number 8, and you move up to the top of the hill and play that as a par 3 as well. Okay, so I know it's confusing for you non-golfers. Then you move to hole number 2, which is now number 4, and 4, 5, 6, and 7 can fit the front 9, and the back 9 is totally untouched. But it's a really good compromise situation for Universal City, so we can stay open, and us golfers can even score lower because those par 4s are par 3s. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, that's what I have for you this evening. All right, so let me turn it over to Mr. Bulman.
Thank you, Mayor. Now that we have some stable finance staff, I think we're getting caught up on finances. I'd like to see about upping our financial transparency game. And so I printed out for you what the comptroller recommends that we put on our website for transparency. And I'd like to ask my fellow council members to have a discussion on a future agenda about what we would like the city to put on the website if anything from what the comptroller recommends.
Sure. Is that a consensus? We're done as an initial discussion on it? Okay. We'll do that. Very good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay, Christine?
I was just going to say, I wanted to make sure everybody knows how much we appreciate all the volunteers and staff that did work. Snowfest, it was so cold out there. And I know the kiddos had a great time, and I'm sure the adults did too. But thank you very much for going out in that cold weather. It was a Snowfest on snow day, whatever. And I also wanted to just say, I had a really good time out at Flash Night out at the golf course. That's where families could come out and walk around and kind of just listen to music and dance, and the carts were decorated and have a good time. And people that went by really talked about how much they enjoyed it. And I know we're getting into daylight savings time, so we probably won't be able to do too many more of that this year, but check the city calendar to watch for events because they really are a ton of fun. So that's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully they're still playing golf. That's what we need. So I appreciate that. A couple of things. Mr. and Mrs. Voller, just to love to gather. Everybody loves to gather here. Do you need more parking? Absolutely, yes you do. And I'd like to Mr. Heberling, I agree with what you say. I am not on that site, so I don't really know what's being said. But I probably will not be on that site. But thank you for that message. We're going to Snowfest. Snowfest, we're all talking about it. It was extremely, extremely cold. But the kids that came out from Randolph, I saw kids show up, and I felt I grew a couple of gray hairs that day, a little bit more. Watching them come out in these small shirts, they weren't ready for the weather, and I'm like, "You're going to freeze," and they're like, "I'm fine," and they got it out the whole day. It was fantastic to see, and they show up every year, and thanks to Mary Eddie for that. And just Parks Department, everybody, Randy. Everybody was on it. It was a cold day. Everybody stuck it out. Of course, you all know one of my favorites is the Citizens Police Academy. Even my mother, who's a part of that, stuck it out, and it was freezing. So we appreciate all the volunteers that made that work, and especially those kind of conditions. Nobody complained about it, and everybody still had a good time. And then I went home and crashed for the next 12 hours. I'm going to bring these in order so I don't forget about them. Judson ISD, I was able to go to the bond oversight committee meeting February 14th in the morning and go over the bonds. They just went from 2016 to the new bonds, and a lot of things that are happening in Universal City along with the fencing, of which I bring that up because if you all want to show up, it's on Friday, and if we could have people from the city or this council, I would like to go at 8:30 in the morning, and if my schedule is right, I will be halfway between here and South Austin, so I will not be able to attend. If I can change that, I will. We have a groundbreaking for the fence projects for Judson ISD this February 23rd, Friday at 8:30 a.m. at the Olympia Fine Arts Academy. If you can all go, it'd be fantastic for you to show up and see what Judson ISD is doing. Like I know a lot of people might not read the Express News anymore as you put up, but I'm sure you all still read the Gateway. And page 15, there just happens to be a thing about Universal City Citizens Police Academy. We are starting it will be on Thursday, starting March 21st. That'll be a 9-week course, and if you look at your Gateway, it's an easy way to get in there. It's a fantastic course. I recommend it for everybody, especially if you like getting involved in the city. If you love your police officers, which a lot of us do, if you love your community and want to branch out to do more volunteering, we've got room and we've got ideas, and there's plenty to do for all. So I'll mention that. And I'm closing this down.
It's okay, you're not on the timer.
I'm not on a timer yet? Okay. I don't usually have this whole lot, but I covered the parking. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Stone?
All right, so Gather Brewery since 3 years old. I absolutely love it there. We eat a ton of waffles. I crave your pretzels all the time. So I say this wholeheartedly that I absolutely love going there and I love you guys. So it's me, not you. So don't take it personally. I just am very fiscally conservative. That's all it has to do with. But I do love going to Gather. It's one of our favorite places. We go ridiculously often and I eat way more waffles than any of you should. So on that, just responding to that. And then for Mr. Heberling, me personally, just because I have a Facebook, I'm not going to post because then I get open records and I got to save it all and I got to send it all to the city and then I got to dig it all out. And since I tend to be the target of so many of them, I'm just not going to do it. So even though I have a social media doesn't mean I use it. I just am a lurker just because there's no point in having to respond and then have to send it all over to Mirabelle and make Mirabelle's job 1,000 times harder. I just have no desire to do that to her. So that's just on me personally. Otherwise, awesome that Snowfest went really well. Flashlight night was also really fun. I agree with Christina. It was cool. We've gone every time that they've had it. And it's just a cool community event. It was fun to walk it in the dark. I got everybody glow sticks, and then the city actually handed out glow sticks. So it was like glow stick palooza, which was really cool. And that's just a fun one. But I think that's all I've got.
Okay, so let's move on now to our next item, which is a consent agenda. There's 2 items on the consent agenda, and they would be acted on by one motion unless anyone would like to have one of those pulled and discussed separately. So those 2 items certainly are the minutes of our February 6th meeting and ordinance 544-8-2024, which is the ordinance approving, adopting, and renewing the purchase policy of the city.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilmember Najarian.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Discussion, anyone further? All right, call the vote then, please, Maribel.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Move on now to our action items for this evening. First is tab number B. It's a resolution 902-2024. It's a resolution of the City Council of the University of City, Texas, to appoint Dr. Chichi Junda Woo as the official health authority for the city of Universal City and setting an effective date. So I'll turn it over to you, ma'am, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you probably know, a lot of the reasons we have a health authority is because it's mandated by state. And since 1977, the city of Universal City and most of the communities in Bexar County have used the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District as our agency. Now, I think maybe what people don't understand is that in order for them to act on our behalf, there actually has to be a declaration of emergency by the city council and authorizing the mayor to call on the health authority to act on our behalf. So this isn't something that is granted to them without it. And I'll go back to talk about COVID because as you know, it should have been nonpartisan. It was not. There was a lot of for and against everything that had to do with COVID, and it doesn't really matter where anyone stands. Somebody has to make decisions. However, you may note that San Antonio did declarations during COVID. Bexar County did declarations during COVID. Even the governor made declarations during COVID. But this mayor and this council did not make declarations during COVID. And so we never called on Dr. Woo to make health decisions for us. Now, the mayor and I were very diligent about sitting in on all of the phone calls that she did where she talked about statistics and things that were going on, but we never asked her to act on the behalf of the city. And so it does take that declaration in order for her to do something. The ordinance that we have limits the control that she has, and it really has to do with infectious diseases and contagions. So if there were an outbreak, let's pick one, polio or something of that nature in Universal City, and as a council and as a city, we had questions that we needed, we could go to whoever the doctor happens to be at the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District. I understand that maybe some people don't agree with Dr. Woo for various reasons. I can even say that I don't agree with her on various topics. But we're not asking for her personal opinion. We're asking for her to use her medical license to give direction to the city council. And so the question was brought up, should it be nonpartisan? Yes, it should be nonpartisan. Unfortunately, during COVID, medical became a partisan issue, and maybe we're feeling the effects of that today. But in the 45 years that we have had this agreement with the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District, we've never called upon them for anything. So what we're really asking for is a safety net that should something happen within our city, we are prepared and have the ability to go to a specific organization, whomever the doctor happens to be that's in charge at that time, and ask them for the information that we need and get guidance. And so that's why you have the agreement before you this evening.
Okay, let me open it up for discussion, then we'll go to a motion later. Anybody want to stress this issue with, yes, Mr. Vaughan?
Do we have to pick the same person as the Metropolitan Health District, or are we allowed to pick a different person?
So she is the head doctor.
Of the Metropolitan Health
Yes.
District? Right.
So you are taking her. That is her role,
So you're saying we are not allowed to pick a different person?
not within that agency. I mean, you have to remember, she's not our employee. She's hired by the city of San Antonio to be their head doctor. Our agreement is with the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District. We cannot be telling them who we're going to accept as an employee and who we're going to accept as our thing. Our agreement is not with her. It is with the San Antonio Metropolitan Health District.
Which is run by her?
Yes, she has been hired to run the organization.
Right, and I share some of the comments that are tonight, that some of the medical decisions that she made over the last couple of years may not be in our best interest, and I understand what you're saying, we've never called on her, and hopefully we never would need to. But I would rather pick somebody else in case we ever were in that situation where we had a 2-year period where this person's gonna be potentially called on for something we can't foresee and we're not smart enough to know how to handle. I think I would move that we table this item and have the city bring us back other options to select from.
I would just remind you that for the last 4 years, she has been your health official. What's changed?
Nothing, but we're talking about the future.
I
And so
understand
we don't, I may not be here, you may not be here.
Correct.
And we would hope that whoever's here would follow advice of somebody that we would agree is good for our community.
Right, but that decision is made by the city council that is sitting at that time, right? You have to make a declaration of an emergency. Unless you do that, she's not going to make any decisions for you.
Well, I stand by my motion to table this until we have other options to select from.
Okay, we do have a motion to table this.
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, I just want to point out, okay, so we mentioned a contract, and so that contract is what we are following. So we'll need to look at that contract, see if there are provisions regarding that as far as whether or not you can select someone else. State law does require that you have someone selected who is qualified. Universal City does not have its own established public health department or public health district separate and apart from what it is utilizing the jurisdiction of San Antonio Health District for. So there are a lot of steps that would need to take place prior to you all determining that you want to select a different person to be that health authority. It's not just about, because it's not just about that person, it's about the health district. But we can certainly table it and bring that type of information back because there are a lot of steps involved that the city would have to go through. That's my understanding.
There is a motion to table, so it would require a second.
Second.
Okay, so second by Councilmember Bulman. And the motion is to table this and to do some more, go back to check what the potentials are. We have looked, I will tell you this, we have looked about someone who has an emergency service, and it's going to be interesting to see what potentially can come up, if anything at all. We have had this service for 45 years. I understand what you're all saying, and I don't disagree with you at all. You can look at it from the standpoint that we have never had to lean on them for anything, and hopefully that would never have to happen. So it's the service. It just so happens that the person that's in charge right now, that seems to be the controversy that some of you have, and I understand that very much, Mr. Adjournment.
So we're still under discussion?
Still under discussion. Yeah, the motion and a second, and discussion's over.
Just making sure. This is a rare moment for me because I've gone back and forth on this. We've had some things come up in Universal City through the times, the 6 years that I've been city council, and I have never had my text in my box flooded like I've had this last week with people who are from Universal City, or citizens of Universal City, that absolutely have no confidence in Dr. Woo. Number one, and as I looked up, Ms. Sefton had brought up a lot of points. She's not qualified in a lot of areas. She's a BYOB. Did I say that right?
OBGYN.
OBGYN. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I'm like, y'all know where my head's at. Okay. Go ahead. Anyway, so yeah, unless we had a big outbreak of births here in Universal City, we considered that to be a problem. That's what she knows. I understand that as a law, as something we need to do, we need to have somebody that can best direct us in a time of emergency. And from what I'm hearing and what I know of the people that I've talked to, if it ever came time that we had to use Dr. Woo, whether she would be right or wrong in her opinion of what we needed to do, there would be no confidence in the people of Universal City. And that's who I'm here to represent. And I'm thinking there's got to be another way. As our city attorney brought up, do we have other alternatives? I don't, you know what, I am not an attorney, but I'm gonna refuse to take that as I think is this just something that we can look into, find out what our legal alternatives are? And I'm going to be on the side of, we do have time on this. We have 2 councilmen gone, and I think this is a public health issue and should be treated as one. I don't think we'd have a big problem, but I never want to be in that situation where we said we had a chance to do something and we didn't. And I would rather, if we get, I'm just going to bring out a name here. I don't know if any of you know him or go to him, but like if a Dr. Patel in this area, people would, he's had experience with these, people would trust what he would say. And I think we were getting good advice. Just because our San Antonio mayor has decided that she's good enough for the position doesn't mean that we always need to follow Mr. Nuremberg as far as I'm concerned. I would like to look at legal alternatives that we can come up with that we can feel good, whether we end up going back here to this position where we're voting on the same thing. I think we need to cross a couple more T's and dot some I's and have more information. Thank you.
We do have motion and second. The discussion is still open this moment.
Just one quick question. So if everybody had voted no tonight, if we didn't table it, if everybody voted no, what happens?
You have no health authority, and you would be in violation of state law, and you'd be in violation of the city ordinance.
Okay.
You might be breaching a contract.
So we'd have to figure out like something else to do. But you can't just vote no and it defaults to the mayor or something like that. It just has to be, you have to pick someone. We just
That's right.
would need to find someone that's not.
But and
Okay.
that someone has to meet all state requirements.
Yes,
It's not
gotcha.
just, I want this doctor down the street.
I get it. Yes, it has to be
It's
someone
gotta be
qualified.
someone who's, so we will
Just
put
for
all that
talking.
together for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the motion is a motion and a second. The discussion, I think I'll just call for the question and call for the vote then, please.
Okay.
Here we go.
Councilmember Vaughan,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman,
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Okay. We'll get back to you. It will be a future agenda item because we do have to make that decision by mail. So we'll have to look if there are any options at all available, and we'll examine all of that. And I agree with Mr. Najarian too, with two council member people back, that should be even more fair to take a look at in this situation. So, thank you, everyone. That item is now closed. So we'll move on to tab number C. Resolution 969, 2024-3. Resolution of the City Council of the University City approving a project on the UC Economic Development Corporation is authorized by Section 505-158 of the Texas Local Government Code, authorizing certain financial assistance to be used for targeted infrastructure located within the city and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, a while back, the EDC came to you with a contract for services with 6S Engineering to get some survey and design work done for a parking lot. We say it's along Blue, but it's actually along several streets. And that work was completed, and so they finished that, and then we accepted bids for construction for the parking lot. The EDC discussed this at their last meeting, unanimously approved to issue a contract to Cementech Concrete Services with a low bid of $102,197.10. And so that's what we have before you this evening.
Okay, be glad to entertain the
Move to approve.
motion by Councilmember Najarian,
Second.
second by Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Discussion open. Yes, Ms. Bulman.
I have a couple questions. Okay, so we already talked about this before, and I went through everything the last time, but so over $100,000 to put in a temporary parking lot. How temporary? Like you guys, we keep talking about how aviation is pushing forward. We own all this land. We're going to town. How temporary? Like, are we talking it's going to be there for a year and then they're still going to be without a parking lot and we're just leaving them high and dry? Are we talking 2 years, 3 years? How long are we thinking this temporary parking lot is going to be temporary?
That's a good question. And when we talked about temporary, or initially we had talked about whether or not it would be a temporary surface, not necessarily a temporary parking lot. So this is a permanent surface, all-weather asphalt, striped parking lights, etc. So it's going to be there as long as it is needed within the aviation district. Eventually, as the aviation district revitalization takes on, we're going to have to find other areas for parking as well. And so it might be that this one becomes some sort of a business or part of a plaza, which is where this area is intended to be at some point, the plaza area, and start looking a little further away to put in pocket parking areas. So it could be, it won't be a year because obviously it's a 15-year plan. So it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years.
But there's not a plan to tear that up and make it so developers are going to want this to buy this land?
So this is a standalone piece of property. It's
Yeah.
not part of the overall
Yeah.
area where we've been looking at. But yeah, at some point it should become a plaza or some other kind of use, and parking needs to be pushed further out so that people have the sidewalks that they can use to walk to places. I know a lot of the places where people are going and parking, there's not even any sidewalks and the parking on dirt. So this is a good alternative use to a piece of property that could sit there for up to 5 years before anything else is done with it. And I know we've heard a lot from Gather Brewery, and of course we enjoy them and we appreciate them. They're not the only business down there with a parking problem. We've got Screaming Chameleon that has a parking problem. There's a sidewalk to get to them and a crosswalk, lighted crosswalk. Rapid Fire Pizza has parking issues. All kinds of businesses down there have parking issues. So this isn't for one, it's for everybody. And in the interim, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of some of these businesses while we identify all the parts and parcels that we're going to put together for the aviation district as a whole.
So the crosswalk was brought up.
Mhm.
I've crossed Gather a million times because I just park in the grass parking lot, like it's across the field that's across the way. So are we planning for a crosswalk? Are we gonna?
Yeah, there'll be striped crosswalk. It's not going to be a separate light. Obviously, the better thing would be
It'll go
to do
at the
would be
light.
to walk to the corner and cross over and then go down. That would be the smart thing to do, or at least the safe thing to do. Will everybody do that? Probably not, but we can certainly do some kind of a lighting to indicate where the crosswalk is.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Anyone else? Mr. Vaughan?
This is like the hard part of government. I think we all have things that we would like to do, but we've got limited resources. I mean, we heard at the last meeting that we're not able to complete the sewer repairs because the utility fund is having to save money for an economic development project by Walmart. And so this is a perfect example of some money that could have gone towards that Walmart property and freed up money for our sewer lines. And so we've always got to pick priorities, especially businesses that we've already given a considerable amount of money to. I think if we could sell a lot to them or work with some kind of cost share, I would be in favor of that. But at this point, I think we have other more pressing needs that we need that money for. So I'm going to be a no on it tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Mr. Najarian?
Just bringing up that, as Ms. Turner brought up, this is not, as much as we love Gather, this is not just for Gather. That's for that area down there that is in bad need of parking for the businesses there to survive. I know for a fact I've been past Gather when I wanted to stop, and I'm sorry it sounds bad, but if I'm doing it, I'm sure there's a lot of other people doing it too. I'd get there and say, it's not parking, I don't want to deal with this, I'm going to go to KFC because I'm just trying to get something quick.
No, that's not
I'm being serious here. I'm being extremely serious that you know, people are, if they have to fight to get to somewhere, I believe that is bringing up the revenues there. It's also an area that we have in our aviation district that we're trying to pick up and get people down there. You can't park, they're not going to come. We need, as a city and as a council, to show faith in that area and what we've got planned and show that we're behind it. And so for that reason, I'm voting yes.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
I know that the EDC and the city is committed to building the aviation district, and we really want that to develop. And I had an email today from a resident who was talking about, has there been any developers that have contacted us? At this point, it's a little early because we're still trying to lay out the infrastructure. And I think this parking lot shows that we're committing to the infrastructure. We're saying, businesses, come, open your business. We'll support you with parking. You know, developers, come look at this area. We have a vision and we want it to happen. And I think we have to end up doing a little bit of this investment for the long-term payoff. It's like right now, yes. And I really appreciate the bid that came back. Randy, you did a great job on getting a really great bid for this. I think that's awesome. And I think that it's us as a body saying we are really committed to making this vision work and supporting the businesses that are there. And it's not just Gather, it's the Oriental Market and the seafood restaurant, the restaurant that's over on the other side of it. They have a parking problem. There's another lot that we're trying, that's been kind of, people have been looking at it from a restaurant perspective in a development area. They would end up settling into that lot. So that lot is really key to supporting a lot of infrastructure in that area.
Okay, good. We've had enough discussion, I think, unless anybody else has one last point to the reports. All right, so we have a motion and a second, so let's call for the vote then, please, Mary Beth.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
No.
Councilmember Vaughan?
No.
Okay, that's a 2-2 tie. I'll break the tie and vote aye. I think the necessity is there, and it's really important for our future in that area. So let's move on now. We have another item. We're going to go into executive session in a minute here. So it's pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-071, and it's consultation with the attorney, the attorney of the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the state bar of Texas. After we did to clarify conflicts with discussion in open session. Also have consultation with the city attorney, and we'll return as quickly as we can. So it's now 7:35. We'll adjourn to the executive session. We'll be back as soon as we can.
I was like, but it's a little chilly.
Okay.
But I'm always
Well, everybody, thank you for sticking around with us. As a result of the closed session, there will be no action taken at all, so that's the last item we have on the agenda for this evening. So thank you for sticking around. If you want to chat with us afterwards, we'd be more than happy to do that. So it is now 8:06, and this meeting is adjourned.
Good to see you.